out!" Lord Thorn hisses, his face purple with rage. "Get out, before I have you thrown in the dungeon for your insolence." Iris Whitlock meets his glare with steady gray eyes, her maid's uniform somehow maintaining its dignity despite the chaos of the war room. Maps are scattered across the massive oak table, military figures knocked askew, and half the king's council looks ready to combust. "The dungeon sounds better than watching you lead 500 soldiers to their deaths, my lord." The silence that follows could shatter glass. "Before we continue, please prove my mom wrong. She says I can't hit 1,000 subscribers." "Okay, let's continue." King Nikolai Ravencrest stands at the head of the table, 6 feet 4 inches of lethal vampire royalty, wrapped in black silk and ancient power. For 300 years, he's ruled the Northern Territories with an iron fist and tactical brilliance that's never known defeat. Right now, those midnight eyes are fixed on the human maid who just called his chief military advisor an idiot. "What?" Nikolai says, his voice dropping to that dangerous quiet that makes even other vampires nervous. "Did you just say?" Iris's heart pounds so hard she can feel it in her throat, but her voice stays level. "I said it's a stupid plan, Your Majesty. Respectfully." Lord Thorn lunges forward, but Nikolai raises one hand and the older vampire freezes mid-step. The king's gaze hasn't left Iris's face. She can feel the weight of his attention like a physical thing, pressing against her skin, searching for weakness, for fear, for the lie that would let him dismiss her. He won't find any of those things. Iris spent 28 years being afraid of her father's debts, afraid of the loan sharks who came in the night, afraid of dying hungry and alone in the streets after her mother passed. Then 6 months ago, she took a job at Ravencrest Manor as a junior maid, and something shifted. Maybe it's because she's already lost everything that matters. Maybe it's because she's too tired to be scared anymore. Or maybe it's because she's spent half a year observing the most powerful vampire in the continent, learning his patterns, watching him lead, and she's seen something that terrifies her more than his fangs ever could. He's actually brilliant, which means this plan is so catastrophically bad that it has to be sabotage. "You have 30 seconds, Nikolai says. Explain." The council erupts. 7 vampire lords talking over each other, their voices sharp with outrage. Lord Thorn is the loudest, demanding Iris be removed, possibly executed, definitely silenced. But Nikolai hasn't moved. He's still watching her with those eyes that seem to catalog every breath, every micro-expression, every truth she's ever tried to hide. "The thorn would pass," Iris begins, her voice cutting through the noise with surprising clarity. "You're planning to march the main force through at dawn, using the morning fog as cover." "Which is precisely why it will work," Lord Thorn snaps. "The element of surprise—" "There is no surprise," Iris interrupts, and she knows she's signing her own death warrant, but the words keep coming anyway. The Thornwood Pass has exactly one strategic advantage. It's the fastest route to the Blackstone Fortress, which means it's also the most obvious route. The rebels have had 3 weeks to prepare since your scouts reported their position. 3 weeks to set up an ambush in terrain where your soldiers will be funneled through a narrow canyon with no retreat options, and cliffs on both sides perfect for archers. She steps closer to the table, and the assembled lords part like she's carrying plague. Her fingers trace the map, following the route marked in red ink. You'd be walking into a killing field. The fog won't protect your men. It'll blind them. And by the time they realize it's a trap, half your force will be dead. Lord Thorn's laugh is ugly. And I suppose a housemaid knows better than military strategists who've been planning campaigns since before your grandmother was born? No, Iris says simply. I know better than a traitor. The word drops into the room like poison. Nikolai moves so fast Iris doesn't see it. Suddenly, he's standing 3 feet away, the air between them charged with something that makes her skin prickle. "Careful," he murmurs, and there's something almost curious in his tone. "That's an accusation that could get you killed." "So is staying silent while you walk into an ambush." Iris forces herself to hold his gaze. Up close, she can see the flecks of silver in those dark eyes, the inhuman perfection of features carved from marble and moonlight. "Your Majesty, someone on this council is feeding information to the rebels. That's the only explanation for how they've countered your last 4 strategic moves. The room has gone cold. Vampire lords don't breathe the way humans do, and right now the stillness is absolute. "She's mad," someone whispers. "She's desperate for attention," another voice adds. But Nikolai hasn't looked away from her face. "If you're wrong," he says softly, "I'll have to make an example of you. Something creative. Something that ensures no other servant forgets their place." Iris's knees want to buckle, but she locks them straight. "I understand." "And if you're right, then you'll listen to what I have to say." Something flickers across his expression. Surprise, maybe, or the faintest hint of amusement. Then it's gone, replaced by the cold mask of a king who's survived 3 centuries through ruthlessness and strategy. "Clear the room," he orders. "Everyone except Lord Thorn and the maid." The council files out in furious silence. Iris catches glimpses of their faces: shock, disgust, a few poorly hidden smirks. They think she's about to be torn apart. Maybe they're right. When the doors close, the weight of Nikolai's attention becomes suffocating. "Prove it," he says. Iris takes a shaking breath and points to a notation on the map, a supply route marked in Lord Thorn's handwriting. "3 weeks ago, you ordered a shipment of weapons moved from the Eastern Armory to the Western Garrison. It was supposed to be secret. Only 5 people knew the route." She glances at Thorn, whose expression has gone carefully blank. "The shipment was ambushed. All 30 guards killed." "Rebels have spies everywhere," Thorn says smoothly. "This proves nothing." "Then explain the silver daggers." Nikolai's head tilts fractionally. "What daggers?" "The rebels used silver weapons in that ambush. Military-grade silver. Forged in your own armory." Iris pulls a folded piece of paper from her apron pocket. She's been carrying it for 2 days, waiting for the courage to use it. "I transcribed the metallurgy report from the recovered blades. The silver has trace elements of nightshade ash, which is only added to weapons made for your personal guard." She slides the paper across the table. Nikolai reads it in 3 seconds, then lifts his gaze to Lord Thorn. The older vampire's composure finally cracks. "This is absurd. A maid suddenly produces evidence? She clearly fabricated. The nightshade ash mixture is changed every 6 months, Nikolai interrupts, his voice deadly quiet. "Only the master weaponsmith and my 3 most trusted advisors know the current formula." He pauses. "You've been one of those advisors for 70 years. Marcus." Thorn's face twists. "You'd believe a human servant over me? Over loyalty spanning decades?" "I believe evidence." Nikolai gestures, and 2 guards Iris didn't even notice materialize from the shadows. "Take Lord Thorn to the secure wing. Strip his quarters. I want every letter, every ledger, every scrap of paper examined." "This is a mistake," Thorn snarls as the guards grip his arms. "That little bitch has manipulated you." The king moves like lightning, suddenly inches from Thorn's face. "She just saved 500 of my soldiers. You were about to send them to slaughter." His voice drops to a whisper that somehow carries through the entire room. "If I find proof of your betrayal, Marcus, your death will take weeks, and it will hurt the entire time." They drag Thorn out. His protests fade down the corridor. Then Iris is alone with the vampire king, and her adrenaline finally crashes. Her hands start shaking. She clasps them together, but it's too late. He's already seen. "Sit," Nikolai says, gesturing to a chair. "Before you fall." "I'm fine." "Sit." She sits. Her legs are trembling so hard she's grateful for the order. Nikolai rounds the table and leans against it, studying her with that unnerving intensity. "How long have you known?" "Known for certain?" 2 days when I got access to the metallurgy report." Iris forces herself to breathe slowly. "Suspected for 3 weeks since the ambush. I've been watching the council meetings. Watching, a junior maid. I bring the tea service." She manages a weak smile. "People forget servants are in the room. Clearly we shouldn't." He's quiet for a long moment. "You transcribed a classified military document. That's treason in itself." I know. You accused a senior lord of the realm without permission. That's insubordination punishable by death. I know. You called a military strategy stupid to my face in front of my entire council. Iris meets his eyes. It was stupid, Your Majesty. The silence stretches. Then, impossibly, the corner of Nikolai's mouth twitches. It really was, wasn't it? She blinks. I'm sorry? The plan. It was obvious, predictable, and exactly what the rebels would expect. He shakes his head slightly. I suspected Thorn was compromised, but I needed him to reveal himself. So I let him propose that disaster of a strategy to see who would support it. His gaze sharpens. I expected one of my military commanders to object. I didn't expect the Maid. Oh God. So I interrupted You interrupted nothing. You accelerated my timeline and provided evidence I didn't have. Nikolai straightens, and suddenly he's looming over her again, all predatory grace. Now! You claimed I should hear your ideas. I'm listening. Iris's mind goes blank. She'd been so focused on stopping the ambush that she didn't actually prepare an alternative strategy. You don't have a plan. I have the beginning of one? It comes out as a question. That almost smile flickers again. Show me. She stands on shaking legs and moves to the map, forcing her thoughts into order. The rebels are expecting you at Thornwood Pass, so don't go through the pass. Circle north instead, through the Whispering Woods. Yes, it takes 3 days longer, but it puts you behind their defensive position. They'll have fortified the approaches to Blackstone from the south. They won't be prepared for an assault from the north. Nikolai steps beside her, close enough that she can feel the unnatural cold that radiates from his skin. The Whispering Woods are haunted. My men won't march through them. They're not haunted. They're cursed. Different thing. Iris traces a route with her finger. There's a witch living in a cottage on the eastern edge. Mabel grieves. She cursed the woods 20 years ago to keep soldiers from using it as a shortcut during the border wars. But curses can be negotiated. You know this how? Mabel's daughter works in the kitchens. We're friends. Iris glances up at him. I'm good at listening, Your Majesty. People tell me things. His expression is unreadable. What else do people tell you? That the Vampire King is terrifying, brilliant, and hasn't taken a day off in 50 years. She shouldn't say more, but exhaustion has stripped away her filter. That he cares more about protecting his people than his own life. That he's lonely. The temperature in the room drops 10 degrees. Iris immediately regrets every word. I apologize. I shouldn't have. Who told you that last part? No one. She hesitates, then decides she's already doomed. I see the way you watch people. Like you're cataloging threats, but also looking for something you can't find. And you're always the first one in your study in the morning and the last to leave at night. You eat meals alone. When the staff have celebrations, you never join. You're surrounded by people every minute of every day, and you're completely isolated. The silence that follows is profound. When Nikolai finally speaks, his voice is carefully neutral. You're very observant for a maid. I'm very observant because I'm a maid. Iris forces herself to hold his gaze. Invisible people see everything. He stares at her for a long moment, and she sees something shift behind those dark eyes. Surprise, recognition, something almost like pain. Then he turns abruptly back to the map. This plan. The Whispering Woods. It's risky. Less risky than Thornwood Pass. If Mabel refuses to lift the curse, she won't refuse. Not if I ask her. Iris leans over the map, her exhaustion making her brave or stupid. After you flank from the north, you split your force. Main contingent hits Blackstone directly. But you send a smaller unit to cut off the supply lines here and here. The rebels can't hold the fortress without food and water. You lay siege for a week, maybe 2, and they'll surrender without the massive casualties of a direct assault. Nikolai's hand moves across the map, following her logic. His fingers are long and elegant. marked with old scars that speak of centuries of battle. The supply lines would be difficult to maintain with a divided force. Not if you requisition the grain stores from Millbrook and Ravensford. Both villages owe taxes anyway. Take it in supplies instead of gold. She points to 2 small settlements. And the river here can be used to transport equipment. Faster than wagons, less vulnerable to ambush. You've thought about this. I've had a lot of time to think. Iris straightens. Your Majesty, I'm not a strategist. I'm just someone who's spent her whole life figuring out how to survive with limited resources. This war is the same thing, just larger scale. He's staring at her again, that intense focus that makes her feel stripped bare. What's your name? Your full name? Iris Whitlock. Iris. He tests the word like wine. How long have you worked here? 6 months. And before that? She hesitates. Nothing worth mentioning. I'm mentioning it. Where were you, Iris Whitlock? The kindness in his voice, unexpected and devastating, cracks something in her chest. Nowhere good. My father had debts, bad ones. After my mother died, I was working off what he owed. The loan sharks found me a position here when they couldn't squeeze any more blood from me. Said at least in the manor I wouldn't starve. Nikolai's expression goes very, very still. What kind of position were you working before? The kind where you don't ask questions and pray you survive the night. She lifts her chin. I'm alive. That's what matters. No. His voice is soft but inflexible. That's not all that matters. Before Iris can respond, the door bursts open. A guard enters, out of breath despite being vampire. Your Majesty, we searched Lord Thorne's quarters. You need to see this. The evidence is damning. Letters in coded script, codes that Nikolai breaks in minutes. Financial ledgers showing payments from rebel sources. Maps of the manor's defensive positions. Thorne wasn't just a traitor. He was the rebel spy network's primary source in the palace. It takes 3 days to unravel the full extent of the conspiracy. 4 other nobles implicated. 6 guards compromised. The rot went deeper than anyone imagined. Iris spends those 3 days in a strange limbo. She's not a junior maid anymore. The head housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, informs her with barely concealed shock that she's been moved to private quarters on the residential wing. Not servants' quarters, actual guest rooms with a real bed and windows overlooking the gardens. His Majesty's orders, Mrs. Chen says, her expression torn between confusion and disapproval. You're to be given anything you need. What Iris needs is to understand what's happening, but Nikolai has disappeared into emergency council sessions and military reorganizations. She sees him exactly once, striding through a corridor flanked by guards, his face carved from ice. Their eyes meet for a fraction of a second. Then he's gone. The whispers start immediately. The staff doesn't know what to make of her. Some treat her with deference, others with resentment. A few brave souls ask questions she can't answer. She takes her meals in her room and tries to process the fact that she's somehow still alive. On the evening of the 4th day, a knock on her door makes her jump. It's not a servant. It's Nikolai. He's alone, which is apparently unprecedented based on the way 2 maids scurry away down the hall with wide eyes. He's traded the formal council attire for simple black clothing, and there's a weariness in his face that makes him look almost human. May I come in? He asks. Iris steps back wordlessly. Her room suddenly feels very small. Nikolai enters and the door closes behind him with a soft click. He stands there for a moment, looking around at the sparse furnishings, the neat stack of books she borrowed from the library, the single painting of mountains at sunset. Are you comfortable here? Yes, thank you, Your Majesty. Nikolai. She blinks. I'm sorry. When we're private, you can call me Nikolai. He moves to the window, gazing out at the darkening gardens. I owe you a debt I can't repay. You saved my soldiers. You exposed a conspiracy that would have crippled my territory. And you did it knowing it could cost you your life. I did what anyone would... No. He turns to face her, and the intensity in his expression steals her breath. No one else did. You were the only one brave enough or foolish enough or caring enough to speak up. And I need to know why. Iris wraps her arms around herself. Why does it matter? Because I've spent 3 centuries reading people, and I can't read you. He takes a step closer. You're terrified of me. I can hear your heartbeat, smell your fear. But you stood in that war room and called my advisor an idiot. You're a human servant with no power, no protection, no reason to risk yourself. So why did you? The truth claws its way up her throat. Because I'm tired of watching good people die for stupid reasons. Because my father died for a debt he couldn't pay, and my mother died from working herself to death trying to cover it, and I'm so tired of waste and cruelty, and leaders who don't care about the people who bleed for them. Her voice cracks. And you're not like that. You actually care. Which means that plan was wrong. And someone was using you, and I couldn't just let it happen. The silence that follows is broken only by her ragged breathing. Then Nikolai crosses the distance between them in 2 strides and cups her face in his cold hands, tilting her head up so she has no choice but to meet his eyes. You astonishing, reckless, impossible woman, he murmurs. What am I going to do with you? I don't understand. I'm going to keep you. His thumb brushes her cheekbone. Not as a maid, not as a servant. As mine. Iris's brain short-circuits. Your Majesty. Nikolai, I'm not... You can't just... She struggles for words. I'm a human. I'm nobody. You're a king. You're Iris Whitlock, who sees what others miss and has the courage to speak truth to power. His hands slide down to her shoulders, steadying her. Do you know what that's worth? In my world, where everyone wants something, everyone has an agenda, everyone's calculating advantage? His voice drops. You're not trying to use me. You're trying to save me. That's just basic decency. It's extraordinary. He releases her, stepping back, and she immediately misses the contact. I'm implementing your strategy. The full plan. Whispering Woods, siege tactics, supply requisitions. My commanders agree it's sound. Better than sound. Iris's knees go weak. Really? Really? Which means I need a strategic advisor who thinks like you do. He pauses. I need you. I don't know anything about... You know how to survive with nothing. You know how to read people. You see patterns others miss. Nikolai's expression is serious. And you're not afraid to tell me when I'm wrong. Do you have any idea how rare that is? Pretty rare, I'm guessing. Impossibly rare. He moves back to the window, and in profile his face is all sharp angles and shadows. I'm offering you a position. Official advisor to the crown. You'll attend all council meetings, all strategy sessions. Your input will carry weight. You'll be protected, compensated, and... He glances back at her. You'll never have to be afraid again. It sounds like a fairy tale. It sounds too good to be true. Iris shakes her head slowly. Why would you do this? Because I'm selfish. The admission is stark. Because in 300 years, I've never met anyone who made me want to cancel every meeting just to keep talking. Because you're brilliant and brave and I'm not letting you go. Her heart is doing something dangerous in her chest. You barely know me. Then let me know you. He crosses to her again, and this time when he takes her hand, his touch is gentle. Let me keep you safe. Let me give you the life you deserve. Let me... He hesitates, and for the first time she sees uncertainty in his face. Let me try to be worthy of your courage. Iris stares at their joined hands. His skin is cold, but his grip is steady. Real. I don't understand this. Any of this. Neither do I. A slight smile. But I'd like to figure it out. If you're willing. She should say no. She should run. She should remember that he's a vampire king, and she's a human nobody, and this is insane. Instead, she hears herself whisper, Okay. Okay? Yes. Louder now. Yes, I'll try. The smile that breaks across his face is like sunrise. and Iris realizes with a jolt of terror and wonder that she's in serious trouble. Because somewhere between the war room and this moment, she stopped being afraid of the Vampire King. She started being afraid of how much she wants this to be real. The announcement comes 3 days later. The council is being restructured. New advisors appointed. Among them, Iris Whitlock, special consultant on domestic and military strategy. The reaction is mixed. Half the court thinks it's a temporary madness. The other half thinks it's a calculated move by a king who's never made a careless decision in his life. The servants gossip in whispers. The nobles smile to her face and plot behind her back. Iris attends her first official council meeting in borrowed formal wear, a deep blue dress that Mrs. Chen provided with pursed lips and grudging respect. She sits at the massive table, surrounded by vampire lords who have centuries on her, and tries not to throw up from nerves. Nikolai enters last, a deliberate choice. Every eye tracks him as he takes his seat at the head of the table. Then he looks directly at Iris, and something in his expression steadies her. "Let's begin," he says. "Iris, present your analysis of the grain shortage in the Eastern Territories." She's been preparing for this for 3 days, reading reports until her eyes crossed, interviewing servants who came from those regions, mapping supply chains. She takes a breath and begins to speak. 45 minutes later, the council has a comprehensive plan for addressing the shortage, reallocating resources, and preventing future crises. 3 lords tried to interrupt her presentation. Nikolai shut them down with a glance each time. When the meeting ends, she's shaking with adrenaline and relief. She did it. She didn't make a fool of herself. She actually helped. As the council members file out, Lord Ashford, one of the older vampires, pauses by her chair. He's been watching her with hooded eyes throughout the meeting. "That was impressive, Miss Whitlock," he says slowly, "for a human." "Thank you, my lord." She keeps her voice neutral. "Of course, understanding grain supplies is quite different from actual military strategy. I'm sure His Majesty doesn't expect you to involve yourself in matters of actual warfare." It's a trap, beautifully laid. If she agrees, she admits she's not qualified. If she disagrees, she's arrogant. "Actually," Nikolai's voice cuts across the room, cold as winter. "Iris's military strategy is why we're not burying 500 soldiers right now. Perhaps you weren't informed, Lord Ashford, but the Thornwood Pass plan was a trap. One she identified and countered while you were voting to approve it." Ashford's face goes blank. "I was not aware, Your Majesty. Clearly." Nikolai's hand settles on Iris's shoulder, a gentle but possessive weight. "Iris sees what others miss. I suggest you remember that." Ashford bows stiffly and leaves. When they're alone, Iris lets out a shaky breath. "Thank you. You don't need to thank me for defending truth." His hand slides from her shoulder, and she misses the contact immediately. "You did well today." "I was terrified." "Good. Anyone who's not terrified in their first council meeting is either an idiot or a liar." He studies her face. "Dinner tonight? Private. No politics, no strategy. Just dinner." Her heart does a complicated flip. "Is that appropriate?" "I'm the king. I decide what's appropriate." But there's a question in his eyes, a vulnerability that shouldn't exist in someone so powerful. "Please?" How is she supposed to say no to that? "Okay," she whispers. His smile is worth every terrifying second of the day. Dinner is served in a small private dining room she didn't know existed. No servants, just the 2 of them, and an elaborate meal that someone left on warming trays. Candles flicker on the table, casting shadows that soften Nikolai's sharp features. "Tell me something true," he says as they eat. "Something you've never told anyone." Iris sets down her fork. "That's a dangerous game." "Humor me," she thinks for a moment. "When I was 16, I used to steal books from the library. Not to sell, just to read. I was so hungry all the time, and the stories let me escape somewhere else for a while. I always put them back, but I lived in terror of being caught. What did you read? Everything. History, poetry, adventure tales. I loved the ones about faraway places, where people had choices and adventures and didn't have to worry about whether they'd eat that day. She laughs bitterly. Stupid dreams. Not stupid. Nikolai's voice is intense. You should have had those choices. You should have had those adventures. You should never have been hungry, or scared, or desperate. That's just how life is for people like me. It shouldn't be. He leans forward. And it won't be. Not anymore. Iris meets his eyes across the candlelight. You can't save everyone. No, but I can save you. And I will, Iris. I swear it. The conviction in his voice makes something crack open in her chest. Why does it matter so much to you? He's quiet for a long moment. When you stood in that war room, terrified and brave, and so certain you were about to die, do you know what I saw? She shakes her head. Someone who cared more about saving others than saving herself. Someone who valued truth over comfort, courage over safety. His hand reaches across the table, palm up, an invitation. Someone I could spend centuries knowing and never stop discovering something new. Iris stares at his offered hand. You've known me for a week. I've existed for 300 years. I know what matters. His fingers flex slightly. I'm not asking for forever, Iris. I'm asking for right now. Let me be close to you. Let me learn you. Let me... He hesitates. Let me care about you. She should be sensible. She should remember the power imbalance, the impossibility, all the ways this could go wrong. Instead, she reaches out and takes his hand. His fingers close around hers, cold and strong and steady, and the relief on his face is so profound, it hurts to witness. They sit like that, hands joined across the table, while the candles burn low and something new and terrifying and wonderful blooms between them. The weeks that follow are strange and perfect and complicated. Iris settles into her role, navigating court politics with the same survival instincts that got her through poverty. She learns quickly which nobles are allies, which are threats, which are waiting to see which way the wind blows. And through it all, Nikolai is there. Not hovering, not controlling, just there. He defends her decisions in council. He asks her opinion on everything from military strategy to menu planning. He takes walks with her in the garden at sunset, talking about books and history and nothing at all. They don't touch often, usually just his hand at her elbow guiding her through doorways, his fingers brushing hers when he hands her documents. But every contact feels significant, weighted with meaning neither of them has spoken aloud. One evening, 3 weeks after that first dinner, Iris is working late in her small office, another gift from Nikolai, a room of her own where she can think. She's reviewing supply manifests when the door opens. Nikolai enters with 2 glasses of wine. You missed dinner. I was working. She accepts the glass gratefully. The Eastern grain requisition has problems. It can wait until morning. He settles into the chair across from her desk, looking almost human in his exhaustion. You work too hard. Says the king, who hasn't slept in 3 days. I don't need to sleep as much as humans. You still need to rest. Iris sips her wine. When's the last time you did something just because it made you happy? The question seems to startle him. I don't remember. That's sad. That's practical. But there's something wistful in his expression. Happiness is a luxury kings don't often afford. That's a terrible way to live. Perhaps. He studies her over the rim of his glass. What makes you happy, Iris? She considers. These last few weeks, actually. Having work that matters. Having a place where I belong. Being able to eat whenever I'm hungry without worrying about payment. She meets his eyes. Being around you. The admission hangs in the air between them. Nikolai sets down his glass very carefully. Iris. I know it's complicated, she interrupts. I know there are 1,000 reasons why this doesn't make sense, but I'm tired of pretending I don't feel it. Feel what? This. You. Us. She stands, moving around the desk. I'm not stupid. I know I'm human, and you're immortal. I know I'm nobody, and you're a king. I know every logical argument against this. She stops in front of him, close enough to touch. But when I'm with you, I feel like I finally stopped surviving and started living. And that's worth being afraid for. Nikolai rises slowly, towering over her. His hands come up to frame her face, thumbs stroking her cheekbones. You terrify me, he whispers. In 300 years, nothing has terrified me like the thought of losing you. You won't. I will. Eventually. You're human. The pain in his voice is raw. You'll age, and I won't. You'll die, and I'll go on. And the thought of watching that happen, of losing you to time. His voice breaks. It's unbearable. Iris covers his hands with hers. Then don't think about eventually. Think about now. Think about today and tomorrow and the day after that. We'll figure out the rest as we go. You make it sound simple. It is simple. I care about you. You care about me. Everything else is just details. He laughs, the sound somewhere between joy and despair. Then he leans down and rests his forehead against hers, their breath mingling in the small space between them. How did I survive 3 centuries without you? Poorly, I'm guessing. That startles a real laugh out of him. Then, with infinite gentleness, he tilts her face up and kisses her. It's soft and careful and achingly tender. His lips are cool against hers, but the emotion behind the kiss is anything but cold. It's warm and desperate and filled with 300 years of loneliness finally finding its answer. When they break apart, Iris is breathing hard, and Nikolai's eyes have darkened to pure black. I'm keeping you, he murmurs against her lips. No matter what happens, no matter what anyone says. You're mine, Iris Whitlock, and I'm not letting you go. Good, she whispers back, because I'm keeping you too. The next morning, Nikolai makes an announcement that sends the court into chaos. He does it at the weekly public forum, where citizens can bring petitions before the king. Iris sits in her usual place at the council table, reviewing notes for the day's cases, when Nikolai rises. Before we begin, he says, his voice carrying through the throne room, I have an announcement regarding the royal court. The assembled crowd goes quiet. As you know, I recently appointed Iris Whitlock as special advisor to the crown. Her contributions have already proven invaluable. She identified and helped dismantle a conspiracy that threatened the security of our territory. She developed the strategy that ended the rebel siege with minimal casualties. She has advised on domestic policy that has directly improved the lives of our citizens. Iris's face heats as hundreds of eyes turn toward her. This wasn't planned. He didn't warn her. Nikolai continues, his gaze sweeping the room. What many of you don't know is that Miss Whitlock accomplished all of this while officially holding the position of junior maid. She saw corruption and risked everything to expose it. She saw strategic flaws and had the courage to speak up. She has proven herself not through birthright or political maneuvering, but through merit, intelligence, and integrity. He pauses, and the throne room is so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Effective immediately, Iris Whitlock is elevated to the position of Chief Strategic Advisor to the Crown. She will hold full council privileges, decision-making authority on domestic and military policy, and my complete confidence. His voice drops, becoming more intimate despite the public setting. She has proven herself more capable, more loyal, and more valuable than advisors I've relied on for decades. And anyone who questions her authority questions mine. The last sentence lands like a hammer. It's not a suggestion. It's a direct challenge to anyone who would dare undermine her. Lord Ashford stands, his face carefully neutral. Your Majesty, this is highly irregular. Miss Whitlock has no formal training, no. She has results. Nikolai's interruption is cold. which is more than I can say for the advisors who failed to notice a traitor in our midst for 5 years. Unless you're volunteering to be assessed on merit rather than tenure, Lord Ashford, I suggest you sit down. Ashford sits. Nikolai's gaze finds Iris across the room. Miss Whitlock, do you accept this position? Every eye in the throne room is on her. She can feel the weight of their judgment, their skepticism, their hostility. The smart move would be to decline gracefully, to not make waves. But Iris didn't get here by making smart moves. She got here by being brave when it mattered. She stands, her voice steady. I accept, Your Majesty, and I promise to serve the people of this territory with everything I have. The throne room erupts in whispers. Nikolai smiles, and it's fierce and proud, and meant only for her. Then let's begin. The elevation changes everything. Iris now sits at Nikolai's right hand during council meetings. Her opinions carry weight. Her decisions stick. And slowly, grudgingly, the court begins to accept her. Some because they see her competence, some because they fear Nikolai's displeasure, a few because they genuinely come to respect her. But there's still resistance. Subtle, dangerous resistance. It comes to a head 6 weeks after her appointment. Iris is reviewing trade agreements in the library when Lady Morven, one of the older vampire nobles, enters with 3 of her allies. They're all smiles and courtesy, but Iris has learned to read the undercurrents. Miss Whitlock, Lady Morven purrs. How industrious you are. Lady Morven. Iris doesn't stand. A power move, subtle but deliberate. Can I help you? We were hoping to speak with you, privately. Morven's smile sharpens. About your unique position. The other 3 vampires spread out, blocking the exits. Not overtly threatening, but not accidental either. Iris sets down her papers. I'm listening. You've risen very quickly, Morven says, circling the table like a predator. From maid to chief advisor in a matter of weeks. Quite the accomplishment. Thank you. Of course, some might say it's suspicious. A human woman, no training, no background, suddenly holding enormous influence over our king. Morven's eyes glitter. Some might wonder what methods you employed to gain such favor. The implication is clear and ugly. Iris stands slowly. Some might wonder. But those people would be idiots. Morven's smile freezes. Excuse me? I earned my position through competence. I've saved lives, exposed traitors, and developed policies that have demonstrably improved this territory. Iris's voice is steady despite her racing heart. If you have evidence of misconduct, present it. Otherwise, you're just upset that a human is better at this job than you are. One of the other vampires hisses. Morven's expression goes cold. You forget yourself, girl. We've held our positions for centuries. And in those centuries, you missed a spy network operating in the palace. Iris cuts her off. You missed supply chain inefficiencies that were starving your own citizens. You missed the fact that your king was being isolated and manipulated. She takes a step forward. I'm not the problem here. Your incompetence is. The temperature in the room drops 20 degrees. Morven's fangs slide out, her civilized mask finally cracking. How dare you, Morven! Nikolai's voice cuts through the room like a blade. He's standing in the doorway, and his expression is terrifying. Step away from her! Now! The 4 vampires freeze. Morven's eyes widen. Your Majesty, we were simply... I heard what you were simply doing. He moves into the room with lethal grace, and the other vampires scatter like leaves. You were questioning my judgment, implying my chief advisor gained her position through seduction rather than merit, threatening her in my own palace. We meant no. You meant exactly what you said. Nikolai stops between Iris and Morven, a living wall. And here's what I mean. Iris Whitlock has more intelligence, courage, and loyalty in her smallest finger than you've shown in 300 years. She's proven herself again and again. And if I ever hear another word questioning her competence, her methods, or her character, I will take it as a personal insult. His power fills the room, ancient and overwhelming. Iris can feel it pressing against her skin. Is that clear? Nikolai asks softly. Morven's face is white. Yes, Your Majesty. Good, now get out, all of you. They flee. When the door closes, Nikolai turns to Iris. The rage drains from his expression, replaced by concern. Are you hurt? No, I'm fine. She's shaking slightly, but alive. I could have handled it. I know you could have. He reaches out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. But you shouldn't have to. Not alone. Iris leans into his touch. Thank you for the backup. Always. His hand slides to cup her cheek. I meant what I said. You've earned everything you have. Anyone who says otherwise will answer to me. You can't fight all my battles. Watch me. His thumb strokes her jaw. You're mine to protect, Iris. In every way that matters. The possessiveness in his tone should probably worry her. Instead, it makes her feel safe for the first time in her life. I'm yours, she agrees softly, and you're mine. Which means I protect you too. His laugh is surprised and delighted. My fierce, impossible advisor. Your girlfriend, actually. The word slips out before she can stop it. Nikolai goes very still. Girlfriend? Iris's courage falters. I mean, if you want, we haven't exactly defined. He kisses her, hard and desperate and claiming, his hands tangling in her hair, his body pressed against hers. When he pulls back, his eyes are blazing. Not girlfriend. That's too small. Partner. Equal. Mine. Yours, she echoes breathlessly. Say it again. I'm yours, Nikolai. And I'm yours. He rests his forehead against hers. For however long you'll have me. A year, a decade, a human lifetime. I'll take whatever you'll give. Iris's throat tightens. What if I want more than a lifetime? He pulls back to look at her, something vulnerable and hopeful flickering in his expression. What are you saying? I'm saying I know what I want. She takes his face in her hands. And I want forever. If that's possible. If you'd even... Yes. The word is immediate and fierce. Yes, if you're sure. If you understand what you're asking. I'm sure. And she is. Completely. I love you, Nikolai. And I want every day you'll give me. Every year, every century. I want to stand beside you and make this territory better. I want to fight with you and laugh with you and drive you crazy. I want forever. His kiss is answer and promise and claiming all at once. When he finally speaks, his voice is rough with emotion. I have loved you since the moment you called my war strategy stupid, and I will love you until the stars burn out. If you want forever, Iris Whitlock, then forever is what you'll have. 3 months later, Iris wakes in silk sheets in the royal chambers, sunlight streaming through windows that overlook the kingdom she now helps rule. Nikolai is beside her. He sleeps now, real sleep, because she told him he needed rest, and he listens to her in ways he doesn't listen to anyone else. She traces the line of his jaw, marveling at how something so impossible became her reality. She's chief strategic advisor to the crown. She sits on the council that shapes policy for thousands of lives. Her ideas matter. Her voice is heard. But more than that, more than the titles and the power and the respect, she has this. Mornings waking beside someone who sees her completely and loves her anyway. Someone who made her visible when the world had taught her to disappear. Nikolai's eyes open, immediately alert. Then he sees her watching him, and his expression softens into something tender and private. Morning. Morning, she smiles. Sleep well? I always sleep well with you. His hand finds hers under the covers, fingers interlacing. What are you thinking? that a year ago I was stealing bread and hoping to survive the week. And now I'm here, with you, helping run a territory, making decisions that matter. It's surreal. You deserve all of it. He pulls her closer. You deserved it then, too. The world just hadn't caught up yet. Iris burrows into his chest, feeling his cool skin against hers, hearing the slow beat of his heart. I love you. I love you, too. He kisses the top of her head. Ready to face the council today? They're going to fight you on the new taxation proposal. Let them fight. I have data. She grins against his shoulder. And I have you backing me up. Always. His arms tighten around her. My brilliant, stubborn, perfect partner. They lie there for a while longer, neither wanting to move, both knowing the day will pull them into its demands soon enough. But for now, in the quiet morning light, they have this: peace and love, and the knowledge that sometimes the stupid plan is speaking up when everyone expects you to be silent. Sometimes the stupid plan is believing you deserve more than survival. Sometimes the stupid plan is falling in love with a vampire king who sees you as an equal. And sometimes, Iris thinks, as Nikolai's laughter rumbles through both their chests at some whispered joke, sometimes the stupid plan is exactly what you need to find your forever. Outside, the palace is waking. Inside, the maid who became an advisor, who became a partner in ruling a kingdom, is exactly where she belongs. And for the first time in her 28 years, Iris Whitlock is not just surviving. She's living, thriving, loved, and it's perfect.